Okay, hi. This is for year 11 at Langdon Park School. This is the Unseen Poetry unit. And what's been uploaded to your Google Classroom is a bunch of poems and some exemplar material from the exam board. And why that is really ultimately the best way you can do well on this unit is by reading as many poems as you possibly can. But I'm going to just guide you through what is exactly going to be asked of you in this exam. What you'll get is two questions. One will be an analysis of a poem, and the other will be a comparison. So the first question will be 24 marks, and the comparison will be 8 marks. So what is it that we do when we analyze a poem? Well, I'm just going to walk you through the process. The first thing you do is you actually read the question and read the poem, which is what you should be doing now with me. In autumn, how does the poet present the effects of the season of autumn? Autumn arrives like an experienced robber, grabbing the green stuff, then cunningly covering the tracks with a deep multitude of colorful distractions. And the wind is his accomplice, putting an air of chaos into the careful diversions, so branches shake and dead leaves are suddenly blown in the faces of inquisitive strangers. The theft chills the world, changes the temper of the earth till the normally placid sky glows red with a quiet rage. Okay, so I've read the poem. That's the first time I read it. I know what I'm looking for, which is the effect of autumn on the world. So the second time I read it, I read for structure. And for structure, I simply mean beginning, middle, and end. And these places, these shifts, are kind of like what we did with language paper 1, where many texts, have a moment where there's a switch. Okay, so let's see. And whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. The goal is to really just draw a line where you think there's a switch. Autumn arrives like an experienced robber, grabbing the green stuff, then cunningly covering his tracks with a deep multitude of colorful distractions. That's a really good place, I think, to say there's a break because of the full stop. And the wind is his accomplice, putting an air of chaos into the careful diversions, so branches shake and dead leaves are suddenly blown in the face of inquisitive strangers. Well, that's another sentence. It's a really good and easy place to draw another break. Now, this can almost be done artificially, but what you're really going for is the more you read poems, the more you'll detect a shift. Stanzas can be shifts, full stops, the end of sentences can be shifts, a translation from imagery can be a shift. Any of these things can be the shift. I now have a beginning, middle, and end. The theft chills the world, changes the temper of the earth till the normally placid sky glows red with a quiet rage. Okay, so I've read it twice. Now what I'm going to do the third time I read it is try to grab relevant or interesting language. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go for at least 2 in each section, because really what you're noticing is we're already getting the 3 paragraphs. Here, autumn arrives like an experienced robber, experienced is what I'm going to get. Experience, grabbing the green stuff. So that's supposed to be cash, I guess. Cunningly covering his tracks with a deep multitude of colorful distractions. So cunningly covering is what I'd go for. And distract, that triple. And the wind is his accomplice, putting an air of chaos into the careful diversions. So branches shake and dead leaves are suddenly blown in the face of inquisitive strangers. So here I'm going to go for that. The theft chills the world. That whole line actually changes the temper of the earth till the normally placid sky glows red with a quiet rage. I think I've got my 6 quotations there. And what you do once you've read the poem 3 times is you kind of make a guess. What is this poem about? Literally. And what is it about thematically? Okay? And what I think this poem's about is the change of seasons. And what it's thematically, I guess, is that the metaphor is autumn steals what? Steals warmth? Steals sun? It steals something, and it kind of angers the earth. That's essentially what we do. Now, what would concern you or what might confuse you is if you come across a poem for the first time, what do? Well, it's exactly this. I read the poem, I read it again, and I read it again. And once I have my 6 quotes, I'm pretty good to go to help build my 3 paragraphs. Okay? And to show you really how remarkable, if you go past the next poem, the next thing is a comparison, but actually if we just go to this exemplar, which is on, I think, on page 4, this has gotten full marks. So if we look at what they actually say, you can start getting a sense of what is it that the actual exam board is looking for. Through autumn, Bold presents the effects of autumn to be destructive and unwelcome. That is an interpretation. Bold uses a semantic field of chaos. Okay, so that's a device. But not just device plus reason. Oh, sorry, device plus specifics. Evidence, shake, blown, chills, rage. To suggest that autumn causes problems and tumult. Analysis, explanation. The words chill suggest discomfort and a somewhat sinister atmosphere which consumes the world, emphasizing the huge impact of autumn. So we have zoom on the word. Bold also uses free verse and enjambment to highlight the lack of control that autumn causes, the overwhelming effects being reflected in the overflowing lines. Here what we have very carefully is device plus effects. Bold personifies autumn, cunningly his accomplice, to suggest that autumn is purposefully destroying their peace, implying that it is evil and forceful. So what we have is explanation, lots of evidence, I think times 4 or 5, maybe even more, and link to question. My recommendation would be to write 3 paragraphs for this, but this writer is so compact, they really managed to get most of it in one shot. Let's see the next paragraph. Through autumn, Bold presents autumn to be somewhat reassuring. Okay, so again, if you notice, that's an interpretation, topic sentence. Bold uses a simile, like an experienced robber, to describe autumn's approach. So again, we get the device plus the evidence. The word experienced implies that it is a reoccurring event, therefore suggesting that the people which autumn is drawing on are prepared / awaiting its arrival. So here we get zoom, explanation. Bold uses the phrase colorful distractions to suggest that autumn also brings positive things to distract from all the chaos it creates. The adjective colorful has connotations of happiness and freedom, so we associate these positive ideas with autumn. Here we get more zoom in, analysis, explanation. Bold uses juxtaposition in the last line, quiet rage, followed by a full stop, which focuses the reader to pause and think. Effects on reader. Rage suggests violence and anger. However, when paired with quiet, we get the impression that it is not disturbing or problematic, but even beautiful, as it glows red, with the glows having connotations of spirituality and innocence. Interpretation of imagery. So what you see really in an answer is something like our traditional Pee-wee paragraph, which is topic sentence, evidence, explanation, analysis, device plus effects, link to question. But what you see more of is the fact that there is lots of relevant, probably times 5 pieces of evidence, 5 to 6 pieces of evidence. The explanation is linked to the question. The effects and the analysis are linked. And of course, that aspect is what's really crucial to responding. So if you look at Autumn, and you see it's not really that complicated a poem, and you see that the technique is to actually read the poem, which a lot of students don't actually do, that if you break it up into 3 parts, for me, what I would recommend to you is to write 3 different paragraphs, 3 different Pee-wee analytic paragraphs, and to go with your instincts about what you think the poem's about, and then to see if you can analyze the language and how the poet creates these effects on the effect of autumn. But at the same time, it's worth looking at the exam board's full mark response, because it is actually just a very detailed, highly analytic 2 paragraphs that really just go into a personal response to the poem. And what we hope that you can get from this unit, I hope I see you guys next week, is that we read a lot of poems together, and that you learn to get more confident in responding to poems and taking evidence out and constructing your own responses. So the exemplar pack is there for you to go through as many as you can. I'm going to make another little video now on comparing poetry, the comparison question, which is 8 marks. I hope that helps you. What I would encourage you to do is go through the exemplars and to read the poems, and try and do the analysis and response yourself, and then look to the exemplars to see how students have responded.